The clock is now running on the Playbook podcast, the podcast where you take a deeper dive into the game of business, leadership, teamwork, character, the things that drive your motivation and build dedication. When you get a good look at the game plan of great business leaders, you start to formulate your own playbook and your own rise to the top. Make your next play your best play. And now, here are today's game captains, Glenn Amaral and Andy Phillips. Let's go!
And welcome back to the Playbook podcast. I'm Andy Phillips. Joining me, as always, is my partner, Glenn Amaral. Glenn, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
So people who are listening to us don't know this because we still release an episode weekly, but we haven't been on one of these in a while. When I say a while, about a month. So it's exciting to kind of get back on the saddle with you here. But we have a great guest today, one that you're very close to, and what you do with, I'm not going to give away his organization yet or anything like that. So we'll get into that here in a second. But normally we do our pre-game questions, but you want to give a little twist and put a little twist on that today. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Glenn.
All right. Well, that's great. Today we have an awesome guest, a good friend of mine, Bernie Dagenais, the president and CEO of the Mainline Chamber of Commerce. He's been at the helm since 2010. So, Bernie, what we're going to do today, we're going to have a little fun. We always have a pregame warm-up here, so we're going to bring you in on this. So I heard a little story about you and babysitting a puppy.
Oh, yeah. I get a puppy a couple days a week. This is great. It's like being a grandparent, Glenn. You get the puppy in the morning and you take care of it during the day, and then you bring it back in the afternoon, and you don't have to worry about it overnight. And yeah, I have a couple of neighbors who are children's hospital nurses, and sometimes they're in the hospital and they need a place, and they were looking for somebody to take care of this puppy. And she is the cutest, I have to say. She melts my heart. I mean, I don't know. I've had pets before, but this is the perfect situation, I got to say.
I know. When you can give them back at the end of the day, it's awesome. So that's great. And helping out the first responders and nurses and things like that is just that's awesome. So good work on that. So we're going to get this thing kicked off. Typically, the first half is kind of business-related questions. Then we have a halftime. We'll have a little fun with you. And then the second half is going to be leadership questions. So I'm going to kick this thing off here, Bernie. You have a journalism background. You were the editor-in-chief of the Philadelphia Business Journal back in the day. How has that prepared you for your role as the leader of the Mainline Chamber of Commerce?
Well, I got to say, Glenn, first off, I want to thank you for your work that you do with the Mainline Chamber. You're such a great connector. I have to say that I'm meeting Andy for the first time today. But Glenn, I've always been so impressed with the way that you handle yourself and connect with people, and you always try to provide value, which is one of the things I'm going to mention in our conversation today. But when you asked me to do this, I didn't need to know what it was. I just needed to know that Glenn was asking, and it's like, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And then I've since listened to your podcast, and it's great certainly to be here. I was a little bit of an out of the box choice for the Mainline Chamber of Commerce, having been a journalist for nearly 30 years. But what did transfer well is I had a lot of great business connections that I made as editor of the Philadelphia Business Journal in this region. I know a lot of people and was able to meet a lot of people in that role over about 7.5 years. And then the other aspect is content. And content is such an important part of what a Chamber of Commerce produces. Quality content, great speakers, being able to interview well, being able to figure out what is something that people are going to be interested in learning about. And so those have translated very well. I will say I was not really in charge ever of the bottom line before. So that has been something that I've worked on and feel like I've learned a lot. But this is what entrepreneurs do. And I feel like I'm entrepreneurial, right? You don't know how to do something, you figure it out.
That's right.
That's right.
You'll fail at what you don't try, for sure, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, being in charge of the bottom line, that scares the daylights out of me. So bravo to you for being able to do that for the first time with the Mainline Chamber. So I got a question for you now. Obviously, there's been a lot that has happened over the past 13, 14 months. It's been a crazy time. And the Mainline Chamber really is a champion for the hardest hit, especially restaurants and those such industries. Can you just talk about how the Mainline Chamber has really supported those industries and the members who are in the tougher industries over the past 13 to 14 months?
Sure, Andy. And I'd like to I'll start by talking about some of the amazingly good things, and then I'm going to get to your question.
Okay.
It has been really shocking how well so many companies have done in moving into a more virtual environment, how successful they've been. We've had a company go public. We hear over and over again, the companies that would have never let people work from home are surprised at how productive their employees are. And that certainly applies to me and my team at the Mainline Chamber. However, the impact is very uneven, and restaurants and health clubs and museums and retailers have been hit so hard. So our efforts to help them are certainly ongoing. Marketing them, encouraging members. We had an event with 200 members yesterday, and one of my messages was, whatever it is that you do, look at the chamber membership, support a restaurant. If you like a museum, if you like the live arts have really taken it on the chin. If that's important to you and you want that to be here, it's time to support it if you're in a position to do so. It's such a wide gap between those who are so negatively affected and those who are doing well, and in fact have probably been spending less because it's hard to spend money. Like things you'd spend money in the past where they weren't as available for a while. It's all starting to open up now. So it's just so uneven, and my heart goes out to people who've lost their jobs, and we need to retool the workforce a little bit moving forward. There's a lot of work to be done.
I agree. Well said.
That's great. Now, there's the obvious reasons that we're all members of the chamber. We want to grow our businesses and things like that. And you guys do a really great job at that. It's not that you have to give a business to a member, but at least listen to them, which is great. But what other reasons that people don't think of right off the bat that it's a great reason to be a member of an organization like the Mainline Chamber?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the learning opportunities, the connection opportunities. I think to be successful in the world, you need to be interacting with different people. You need to learn from different individuals. I know that a lot of members, Glenn, have over time seen how you operate and said, oh, there's some useful things that I can utilize. I think of a nonprofit leader that if I named her, you would know who she does such a great job running her small nonprofit, and everybody looks at her and says, oh, that's how you do it. And people learning from each other is an important part of it. Certainly the business connections, people do business with each other. We're very mindful of the different segments. Ultimately, if you want to make a difference in the world, if you want to be part of an organization that's trying to have a positive impact in local business and in our economy, then that's a real good reason to be a member of the chamber as well. And a lot of companies are trying to accomplish things through the chamber, like making sure their talent is where they want it to be, leadership development, different aspects. So we have a lot to offer. And not everything is of interest to every member, but we really work hard to serve our segments in the ways that they want to be served and what's important to them. And like any business, you listen to your clients, you listen to your members, and you respond.
Absolutely. It's not all just about happy hours. There's a lot that goes into it. So that's great, Bernie.
So I don't want to keep being the negative guy bringing up the pandemic, but unfortunately, it's been a huge part of the last year. So I just want to hit one more question on this real quick, because your experience, and also you deal with a lot of different businesses. And is there any permanent changes the pandemic has caused for the business landscape going forward? The only one I can think is there's a lot more virtual, which I don't think is going to go anywhere. Everything else to me, and again, I don't have the outside the box mind maybe in the business world that you might have. Everything else to me, I kind of think could be a couple year, and then everything might get back to normal outside of the virtual meeting type of stuff. Is there anything else you can see changing going forward for the permanent?
Some things people are really desiring to go back to being together, especially the more active chamber members who, so many members of the chamber really, by the way, don't really go to events. That's not why they're members. So I have to clarify, make sure we're clear on that point. I think a lot of these virtual opportunities we've created will not go back. My board of directors meeting, for example, has been so well attended, and we've got a format where everyone gets to speak and we hear from them. And I think that we probably will get together maybe once or twice a year instead of having a board meeting in person 7 times a year. It's actually, we've learned things that are better. We're able to do video now as a staff at the chamber, which we were not able to do before. So we've learned how to do that. We're not going to unlearn that. These are things we should have been doing 3 years ago. But the pandemic has forced us to learn more quickly. And definitely there'll be a hybrid for a lot of companies. I mean, some of them are insisting you got to be back in the office. We're starting to see that pressure come on to employees. In some cases, employees are not that happy about that. They don't necessarily want to be there every day. I think for us and for many businesses, you'll be able to work from home more often than you would have prior to the pandemic, but you'll still be coming into the office. There's collaboration, the ability to work together. There's some things that certainly we miss by not being together, but there are ways to get around it in many ways. Also, a lot of things, Andy, will not. I mean, I think over time there'll be a normalcy, but the world will be different because of what we've learned that has worked.
Yeah,
right.
We'll have to remind people of the dress code because people are so used to being casual. That's like, no, that's not appropriate for the workplace.
I'm waiting one day to walk out with a blazer on with some gym shorts on accident. Not think twice about it, but we'll go from there. All right. So Bernie, this is the fun part, in my opinion, the fun part of our episode, because we kind of peel back the curtain on who you are outside of the work world. We just want to open you up, let people see you for the person that you are, and some fun stuff here. So we call it the speed round. It's our halftime. It's 10 questions, completely unrelated to business. We tell people speed round is relative. If you have an explanation you want to get out there, feel free. But we'll get this thing rolling here. We usually take about 3 minutes during halftime. Are you ready for the speed round?
Let's go, Andy.
All righty. We're going to kick this thing off with your favorite musician or band.
Yeah. So, first comes to mind is my son, Dylan Dagenais. If you Google him, you'll find his albums. He's got one out, I think, right now, but he's got those in the works. So he's a lot of fun for me, obviously.
That was awesome.
And I have to say, I love music, and I love so many different bands. I just continue to be so impressed with the productivity and the work of Paul McCartney and the kind of guy that he is. And he's just so impressive. He was part of a couple bands that people have heard of.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Even me and my
even you in your youth, right?
And he's an interesting solo artist as well, so we'll take that.
That's great. All right, favorite sports team.
Yeah, so I'm not a big sports guy, but I have to say I've been in the Philadelphia area for about 20 years, and I have gotten Eagles fever might be too strong a term, but I'm definitely a fan. I've been to a couple of games, and I'm going to watch. When the game is on, I want to watch it, even on the years when they're not doing so well. I want to watch it. And I get frustrated like a lot of fans, but I have to say that it's intoxicating in Greater Philadelphia, the love of the Eagles. And there's great business stories in sports as well. So I've enjoyed, I talk about Eagles coaching changes and decisions sometimes as part of leadership presentations as examples for individuals that we train.
Yeah. And I tell you, when I moved out here about 4 years ago, I'm shocked. I'm shocked at, like you said, that Eagles fever, the passion the city has for that team. Yeah. I'm from Michigan, so yes, the Lions aren't very good. So I understand maybe it wouldn't be close to what the Lions kind of temperature in the city is, but the Eagles take it to a whole another level. I was blown away when I came out here. Yeah. All right. Your favorite movie of all time?
Last Samurai. I don't know if you remember that movie. Tom Cruise was in it.
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I recommend it highly. So for me, I'm very interested in martial arts and things that are Asian. So it's got a lot of Japanese history in it. And it's really about personal growth as well. And those are all things, and beauty, natural beauty. And so those are all things that I find really intriguing and I enjoy in my life.
Great. Your favorite book or your favorite podcast? And just to give everyone else a chance, we aren't going to let you say us.
I was going to say you, the Playbook, of course. But, my son back to my son again. He's got something on horror movies that he does, creature features. It's called Hot for Creature. So I would recommend. I'm here to promote my son's businesses today, by the way. This is what I'm here
for. If his dad won't, who will? I mean, that's very well done.
Sadly, that's true.
All right. First car you ever owned. We asked this to literally everybody. We like year, make, and model, and color if you remember.
Yeah. Okay. So it was a 1972 probably weird tan colored Chevy Vega. It had a 4 on the floor, and I got rubber out of all 4 gears at one point or twice. We were pretty amazed. My friend and I were looking at it, so, hey, I got a little one in the fourth gear there. That's good.
Phenomenal.
It's not a great car, but I was so happy to have a car.
Well, your first car, the only thing that matters is, does it get you from A to B? That's it. And that doesn't even have to happen 100% of the time. Sometimes you can stall out, whatever. All right. Your biggest fear, it could be you can go as deep or as shallow. I shouldn't say shallow. As deep or as not deep as you want. So we'll let you do what you want to do with this one.
It's funny because it's a good question. I tend not to focus on that very much. I have to say that on the positive side of that, I want my family to be healthy, to be happy. And so things other than that are things that cause me concern. And I try not, philosophically in life, try not to focus on the things that could go bad. So there are things that are scary, but I don't know that I have the biggest fear.
I'm just ruining everyone's Friday talking about the pandemic and fears. I'm going to get positive for the rest
good,
of this
Andy.
time.
We can take it. I'm a journalist, so that's all part of life. I just,
What are you asking next, Andy?
Well, I'm going to talk about something
I'm
going to talk about something that's very positive in my opinion. What's your favorite food?
Oh, my favorite. I like sushi. I don't know if cocktails count as a food, but fancy cocktails on a menu that I haven't had before. I often will have one of those. So that's it. I think I kind of count that as a food too.
Okay. Well, question 7B. What's your favorite cocktail?
Kind of the Manhattan kind of brown liquor types, something like that. Anything with a bourbon in it. There's a variety of different drinks that I enjoy.
Glenn, you can whip those up pretty good. And
on C, what's your favorite bourbon?
Oh, my favorite bourbon. I think Elijah Craig is pretty good.
If I had to pick my favorite bourbon, I would say Eagle Rare. It's probably that's from the bourbon brand.
I like that bottle. I like that bourbon. Absolutely.
I'm not a connoisseur though, so if you lined up 7 different kinds in front of me and told me to pick my favorite Eagle Rare, I probably couldn't even do that. So I say this, but no connoisseur.
Woodford is nice. There's a lot of nice bourbons out there.
No doubt. All right. Your dream vacation that you haven't yet taken.
That's easy for me. I have never been to Paris, and my last name Dagenais is French. And actually, there's a region in Southwest France where my name originates from. So I want to go there. I want to look at the tombstones and see if there's some people with my name been buried there. Maybe on the mailboxes. Maybe knock on some doors. I don't know. We'll see. Pandemic's got to be over.
Meet some long lost fourth cousins.
I just did the ancestry, so it'd be interesting to see where I really came from. Right?
Oh, that's cool.
Right.
Send me the link to that, Glenn. I'm curious to do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. 2 more left. Your most hated household chore, indoors or outdoors, is fine.
Yeah. I got 2 of them, really. Power washing the deck. And, it's just a long job. And then staining it as part of that. And then leaves. But, that house, I don't live there anymore. So I don't do those things.
Oh, good for you. And I'm going to switch this one up because the first one, we actually answered musician as well. I was going to go band and then musician. So I'm going to change it up now. And we're going to stick in the same genre, but I want to know your favorite song.
Favorite song? It's funny.
Ball on the tee for your son again.
Yeah, no, that's okay. The first one, I think I'm gonna go a different direction this time. The first one that came to mind, I'll go with the first answer that popped into my head, was when I was 17 years old. I was in a band and we performed Stairway to Heaven, and it was such a great moment in my life where it was a talent show, and it was just, we had lights going and smoke, and it was a great moment. So I'm not sure if it's really my favorite song, but it's my favorite song moment, if you will, and I'm going to go with that.
That's a great answer.
So I'm a 90s baby. So the thing I remember about Stairway to Heaven, my first introduction to Stairway to Heaven was Wayne's World. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, when they go into the guitar shop and the sign clearly says no stairway because it's such a long song and everyone wants to play it. All right. So that was halftime. Bernie, you were phenomenal. We're going to move on to the second half. We do a lot of leadership and experience focused questions here. So let's just kind of get into that. The Mainline Chamber's mission is to promote economic growth by enabling their members to succeed. What skills do you communicate to help the members get the most out of their membership? I mean, that to me is something that a good leader has to be able to communicate in sports, in business. And it's kind of probably up to you to we want you to be a member because you can maximize this. So how do you get people to maximize their membership?
The first thing you got to know is that the individual, not everyone joins a chamber of commerce. The people who join chambers of commerce tend to be success oriented. They tend to be positive. They're working on their skills and their abilities. They're growth minded. So you know that. So do you want to be in a room with people like that? Because connecting with people that will ensure your learning, will help you to grow, is an important part of it. And a high energy level. You get energy out of these interactions. So I think that's important. And then in your business, it's not enough to build something of quality. That's so important, but it's also important that you're out there marketing it. So I always tell people, it's not build it and they will come. That's just not true. You can build it and no one will ever come. You have to create something of high value, and then you have to make sure you're telling people about it. And then being a mindset of helping others, bringing value to the relationships. I had an event with some college students this week, and we all were talking about personal brand in your job search. And that's what I said. And for me, I like to bring value to my relationships and my interactions. And I think that's really important that you have that attitude. And if you come in with that attitude, you're going to get a lot back in return.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's kind of like any type of membership or anything you do, you got to put the work in, you got to show up.
Yeah.
If you don't do those things, the best organization won't work for you.
That's true, Glenn. But I have to say, there are people who've been members for decades who will renew their membership every year. And if I call them and talk to them about, like sometimes you're like, well, you haven't been to anything. Well, I'm not a member of the chamber to go to things. I'm a member of the chamber because I think you're doing good work and I want to be a supporter of that. So that comes back to that segmentation. People are members for different reasons.
You're absolutely right. Good answer. Now, little birdie told me that you have 4 basic principles of success.
4 basic principles of success. Okay. All right.
Tell us about it.
I'll tell you, good things come to people who show up. Again, this came up with my college students. They showed up that day, so they were really good. We had 125 college students. That's one. When you figure out what you should do, be bold about it. And I'll tell a little anecdote. I was getting my hair cut one day by a woman who'd been cutting my hair for a while, and I like her very much. And she was doing some college work at that point, and she was kind of complaining that she had to do a big project. It's going to take her hours that afternoon. And, my response was, you're so lucky to have that work to do. A lot of people don't. I think about the homeless guys when I was at the Philadelphia Business Journal, a couple of homeless guys that were always in the back alley. They didn't have a project to do. They didn't have any work to do. So taking it on with boldness and enthusiasm and figure out what it is to do, which is hard, really put the effort in and be happy to have that. Then it's always about the people, surrounding yourself with good people and persevering. There's going to be problems. There's going to be people who say no. They're going to people who are going to say you're not good enough or it's a bad idea. And you just have to see if you can learn from that and not let that stop you. So good things, show up, be bold about what you're trying to do. And it's about the people, and then persevere. Those are my 4.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
All right. So my next question, I want to go rogue here. Do I have permission from both of you to go rogue on this?
Go rogue, baby. Do it.
Bring it on.
All right. So we started talking about bourbon, so naturally reminded me of a college drinking game per se. So in college, you bring up a category, say types of cereal, and you'd be sitting in a circle, and you had to go in the circle and name a type of cereal, and it had to be different from you couldn't have any repeats, and you had to answer like that.
Right.
By the time whoever stumbled or fumbled or couldn't think of one or repeated, you lost, you drank. Move on to the next category. I want to talk about leadership traits, and I want to go around and I'll tell you why after. So we're going to do leadership qualities or leadership traits. That's our category. So do you guys have the same screen as me? Bernie, are you below me and Glenn on yours?
No.
Okay. So
but that's all right.
Let's do this. I'm going to start. I'll start. Bernie second, Glenn, you're third, okay?
Okay.
We're going to go till one of us, likely me, stumbles.
It might be me.
All right? And I'll tell you why after. So I'm going to start off by saying, got to be a good listener.
Communications capabilities.
Empathy.
Leading by example.
Integrity.
Being a servant leader, which means doing anything you ask people to do.
Good. Ability to adapt.
Always be learning.
Always be learning. All right. To face in as much as you face out with your communication skills.
Being a duck on the pond. You better look calm on the surface, even if you're scrambling underneath the water.
I like that one. Leading by example is mine.
That's the first repeat.
Oh no!
First repeat. All right. So
I was supposed to be listening. You said listening. That's what you kicked off with. Oh.
So
I have to say, if that was a drinking game in college, I don't think I would have been good at it anyway. So
the worst part is when you're the one who keeps losing, you keep drinking more, which means you're probably going to keep losing.
I've got coffee here.
There you go. There you go. So the reason I bring that up is because you have dealt with many different types of leaders. All these, I consider everyone who's probably joined the Mainline Chamber of Commerce a leader in their own world. And they come and join together in the Mainline Chamber. And there's not one way to lead. Everyone can lead in a different fashion. So we just named a bunch of different leadership styles. Do you find that one specific style has more success or is easier for people to gravitate to? Or is it really just a mixed bag and follow your own strength of leadership? Don't be a talker if that's not you. If you're the person that needs to lead by example and that's how you lead, do it. Or do you think there's a certain trait that is a must that we either mentioned or didn't mention?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, regardless of style, I think that it comes down to communications capability. My first answer in that lightning round you were just doing, because really being able to help people to understand things in the way that they need to communicate in the way that works for them is such an important part. No leader by themselves are successful. So I've had people who have different styles, and I could say this style, I think that people who don't really want to praise anyone, or they're really reserved about telling anyone that they're doing a good job. I don't think that's a great style. Leading by fear, I don't think that's a great style. But whatever the second most important thing is, it's far behind communicating effectively in ways that people can understand. That's the number one thing to me, and that's really clear. And whatever style you have, if you can do that, you probably can be a good leader. The other thing I'll say, Andy, is that this is something you work on your entire life, whether it's leading yourself or leading people around you or leading from wherever you stand within an organization. This is like a saw that needs to be sharpened regularly. I'm a big believer in that. And I spend a lot of time on leadership.
I completely agree. And I think communication, I agree with you on that. So I have a sports background. And when I was playing center in football, you're making calls, you're calling out the blitzes that are coming, you're making your call, adjusting your scheme, your blocking schemes up front to what you're seeing in the defense. And my coaches always told me from day one, they're like, make a call loud and confident. Even if you're wrong, if everyone's on the same page, good things typically happen. So it might not be the correct call, but you'd rather be confident and communicate to make sure everyone's doing the same thing. Where you have your biggest issues is when you get up to line of scrimmage and you're looking around, you don't really know what to do. And next thing you know, the ball snapped with no communication, and half the line's doing one thing, half's doing the other, and your quarterback's on his back. So communication really is the key, because if everyone's on the same page, you can typically find success.
Right.
So,
yeah, agreed.
All right, now we're going to turn this on you, Bernie, and your leadership skills. I know from personal experience, you have a fantastic team, and you want to get your staff to buy into Team Bernie, which I love. Team Bernie, that's great. How do you communicate your mission to your team, and how to get them all on the same page?
Yeah, well, Glenn, I don't know how this Team Bernie thing came about, but I need you to know that is not me. I am not somebody who's going to be talking about Team Bernie. It is not Team Bernie. It is not about the CEO of an organization. It is about the membership. And the Mainline Chamber of Commerce is 100 years old this year. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of people who have come before me who have set us up for the success that we're having now. And if the team really belongs to the membership. We have 900 plus companies that are members of the chamber. We have a board of directors of 30 people that I report to. So I try not to say, I sometimes fall into it because I do feel so proud of the people I work with. And I don't use this word lightly. I really love them. These are people I really care about and really enjoy working with. And I want to see them succeed. And they know that. They know that I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm not going to say something that they wish I did say. That's going to happen sometimes, but they know that my heart is in the right place, that I want them to be successful. And I really want to serve our members effectively. We're member-centric. We have a positive attitude. We support each other. These are some of the things we talk about. And we're success-oriented. Those are our 4 principles at the Mainline Chamber of Commerce. And talking about that and making everyone be aware of it is so important. But they are not Team Bernie. They are not my team. They are the members' team. They're your team, Glenn. They're our team.
Right. I set you up for giving me the perfect answer. And the one thing that we forgot, I think, unless I wasn't listening, is being humble. Oh. That's an important part of being a leader. It truly is. Because Andy and I, we have a great team that we work with. And I mean, without them, everything falls apart. So Seriously. That was a really, really good answer, Bernie.
Well, as hard as we work, and I'm sure that you both work very hard, and I do as well, and my team works very hard, there are factors that are beyond our control, and I think that to think that it's all about you, anyone who's ever read Good to Great, the Tom Collins, the Collins book, I'm forgetting his first name.
Tom Collins is a drink.
Yeah, it's not Tom Collins. Yeah, you started me on the drinks here.
There seems to be is there a theme in this episode?
How did that happen?
So you can only listen to this episode after 5:00.
This is the happy hour episode of the Playbook. Yeah. So I do think that, it's important. One of the themes in that book is that if you talk to CEOs who are successful, they say luck is a factor. And I think that part of that luck is a combination of hard work and preparing for the opportunities that come up, but it's also the other factors that occur around you because you're doing all the right things.
And what's the name of that book again for our listeners?
That book is called Good to Great.
Good to Great. That's awesome.
It is a classic business book. If there's one business book you ever read, it should be Good to Great.
Good to Great. I'm writing it down.
All right.
That reminds me of a quote one of my old coaches in Green Bay used to say. He said, he'd ask you how you're doing, and if anyone said good, he goes, don't be good, be great. Good's just above average.
Yeah.
My grandfather used to say, how you doing, Pop Up? And he'd say, great. And I lie about other things too.
All righty. So, Bernie, we have to get to our Hail Mary question. It's our last play of the game, our last question of the game. We're running short on time, so be as quick as you can, but we do want a good answer because we love this question. Go back, everything you know now, all your knowledge, all your experience, and you can give 22-year-old Bernie a word of advice. What would you say to yourself back when you were 22 years old?
Well, first, I will say that at 22 years old, I was very fortunate to have recently gotten a college degree, but I had really very little going on. I was not very employable. I was trying to make my way in the world. So I was just trying to get that first real job. And I won't get into more details. I don't want to stretch it out. But I would tell him that when you are 32 years old and you're moving to Washington, D.C., make sure you set it up so your dad doesn't sell your 1972 Triumph Spitfire. That's what I would tell Bernie. Because I still wish I had that car. I love that little car.
Oh, that is phenomenal.
He sold it without even telling me. I said, you sold my car?
Oh, my God. That's the worst.
Is that legal? I'm trying to think around something here. All right, so anyone who's trying to sell a 72 Spitfire, we have a guy. He
would like it back.
Yeah,
that's right.
All right, Bernie, I appreciate you being on the podcast. It was awesome. We had a great time. I want to give you a little bit of time to tell our listeners how they can get a hold of the Mainline Chamber and how we can reach you.
Sure. Well, the Mainline Chamber of Commerce is, you can find it at mlcc.org, and there's a lot of information about all the work we do. Society of Professional Women is our largest program. We do a lot with leadership development, programming, and training, and we connect companies with talent. So we're about connecting with business, leadership development, and talent. And it's not for everybody, but it is a really high value proposition for those who do get involved and are able to utilize our services. So, Glenn, thank you again for your volunteerism with us, and thanks for having me on the show today.
Well, that's great. Well, I'd like, again, Bernie, thank you,
Bernie,
for joining us. And
thanks, Andy. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. It was great.
My name's Glenn.
I'm Andy Phillips.
And until next time, what's in your playbook?